All right, so I'm going to do another video on, well, not another video. I'm going to do a video on midpoint. This is similar to, it's going to look very similar to the video I just did on the distance formula. But here's how it works, and it's quite clever. It's quite easy. The midpoint is exactly as you might think. Well, it should be very intuitive, I guess, is really my point. And if I want to find the midpoint between A and D, first of all, you should use a ruler because that looks atrocious. Let's see. Between A and D. Here we go. What I would recommend doing is I would recommend finding the value for A, the X value and the Y value for A, and the X value and Y value for D. And then we'll get on with it. So it's 2, 5 for A. It's -1, +3 for D. And if you think about this intuitively, the midpoint, even if you don't know the formula, you should say, well, it's probably right around there, which would make sense because it's the middle of AD. So the midpoint of AD, and I use that little line above to symbolize that's a line segment. So it looks like this. I always do midpoint of AD, or that's my, that means midpoint, AD is the segment. And then it says x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and then y1 plus y2 divided by 2. And once again, that should make sense intuitively because it's the average of your x values, right? If I add these two x values and divide them in 2, I should get around there. And then it's the average of my y values. If I add these two and divide by 2, I should get someplace around there. And therefore, that's my solution. So let's see. My x values were 2 plus a -1. And you have to be careful because of the negative. And then 5 plus 3 were my y values. And so I get 1/2. Because 2 plus a -1 is 1, divided by 2 is 1/2. And 5 plus 3 is 8, divided by 2. So I get 4. 1/2 and 4, because 2 goes into 8 4 times. And that's it. That's all there is to it. That's literally all there is to this. Even if you forget the midpoint formula, you should still be in decent shape and be able to figure it out. So if I give you something like this, let's take a look at this one. It looks like E is at the point -1, -4. B is at the point 9, 1. And so my midpoint formula for EB would be x1, which is -1. Oh, you know what? I'll write this out. x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Alright, so if I said x1 is -1 plus x2, which is 9, over 2, comma, y1, which would be -4, plus y2, which is 1, divided by 2, I get a +8 divided by 2, and I get a -3 divided by 2. Let's see. I get 4 and -3/2, which is 1.5. So let's just see if that makes sense. If I go to 4 and right here, that does make sense. Well, it looks like it makes sense anyway. And if I were to do the distance formula, I would find out that the distance between point M, EM, should be the same as the distance to MB. Which brings me up to the very last thing I want to do. And that is, what if I knew the midpoint? Let's say I knew the midpoint was 4, 1. That's the midpoint of A and some unknown point. Well, midpoint equals x2 plus x1 over 2 y1 plus y2 over 2. And I know that A is 2, 5. And I know that my midpoint is 4, 1. And so let's say, I can actually just say 4, 1 equals x plus 2 divided by 2, comma, y plus 1 divided by 2, because we're trying to find out what x2 and y2 is. Hold on one second. Oh, let's see if this will work. I think I'm gonna have to pause this for one. Sorry about that. Something was happening, so let's see. Oh boy, and I've lost all my work. All right, well, I think it was 4, 1. So I had 4, 1 was equal to x2 plus 5 divided by 2. Nope, that's not true. Sorry about this. Plus 2, comma, y2 plus 5 over 2. And so if x2 plus 2 over 2 has to equal 4, I would multiply that and get 8. Then subtract 2. That means my x2 value has to be 6. I would do the same thing for my y value. Equals 1. I multiply that over, and I get y2 plus 5 equals 2. Subtract 5, and I get y2 equals a -3. So at 6, -3, I am down here. If I were to use my ruler, all 3 points should line up. And let's see, whoop, there they go. And just a quick spot check. If I go over 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4, down 4, I go over 2 and down 4. And so that means that this, we'll call that A, we'll call this P. That means that AM is congruent to MP. They're the same length. All right, that's it. Hope you learned something and enjoy.